This is Ready News Review, the podcast.
And now,
America's independent voice, Rob Ready.
Every Thursday, it's time for Talking Tough with Dr. Tommy Curry. Dr. Tommy Curry, Texas A&M University. He is always with us every Thursday, Talking Tough with Dr. Tommy Curry on this program. Dr. Tommy Curry, how are you, sir?
I'm good, sir. How are you doing today?
Great.
So I want to talk about the academic plantation today. I don't know if people have been following the news out of California at UC Irvine, but it's been a powder keg of black student activism. What happened was the Black Student Union is organized around a blackface parody of Justin Timberlake's suit and tie video. And what it's pointing to is kind of the systemic anti-black racism that's prevalent all through the the UC system, from nooses and KKK propaganda on the other campuses. Now, this is a very similar situation that we have at Texas A&M. During Obama's re-election and his election, people were egging his posters. People were making comments that he was a Marxist. Black professors, most recently, have not been retained throughout the university. So what we see on academic campuses, going from the west all the way to the south, is that there is a fundamental backlash that is in many ways mirroring the type of political realities that black people are facing on an everyday path in society. So on the one hand, you see society saying that it wants to challenge affirmative action, it wants to roll back civil rights progresses, and you see the university as being kind of a microcosm of that exact type of impetus in America. And while people have the idea that university is the place for ideas to be tested and debated, it has to be very clear. This is so important for African-descended people to understand that it's also a place where racism, anti-black violence, and the rationalizations of white supremacy are the most empowered. It's a place where people who are fundamentally averse to the civil rights movement are fundamentally averse to certain types of ideas, that black people have philosophy, that black people have systems of political thought, that black people have history. These are the places that those types of battles are happening. And I think that what we have to look at today is that while we think of this as being a place where liberals and white people who are supportive of coalition building, and white people who are supportive of the types of political organizations that we've generally talked about and come to understand as being, good for black people, that it makes black people and black students specifically especially vulnerable. Because when you have people who are in charge of a system and young students who believe certain types of ideas and being empowered by professors who are conservative and resistant to black ideas, those black students are more subject to violence, to social isolation, and aggression from their peers. And like I said, these types of challenges that we see in affirmative action and white conservatism is playing itself out in these student populations. Now, this places the black professor at a very interesting point, because as you know, I'm always talking about how black professors have chosen not to be radicalized. And I want to be very clear on something. I think that they have not been radicalized, and that's to the detriment of black people, the black public, and the ideas and the types of topics we study. But we also have to look at the institutional pressures on black people. In this economic situation where tenure-track jobs are decreasing, that people are being adjuncted, and black professors know that they are fundamentally that there's a hostility that exists in academia to them, especially black male faculty. They know that their chances of getting hired in a tenure-track position or even in a permanent position as a lecturer, et cetera, are slim to none. However, we have to ask ourselves, do black professors have simply a duty to themselves, i.e. their economic futures or their future in the academia, or do they have a larger responsibility to the black public and to the black students that are suffering? If we see a rollback to 1960 civil rights type situations, that is certainly the case here at Texas A&M, given how many faculty of color we've lost. If we see this happening, do we not have a responsibility as black scholars and black people who are invested in studying black life and history to understand that this is bigger than simply our academic interests? If we see black students being harassed by the influx of white racists, in the moderation of white liberals, and in the rise of conservatism and anti-black racism, specifically anti-black violence, then the black professor has to move beyond their academic interests into being an actual advocate, not just an activist, but an advocate for black people's rights and black people's perspectives in the world. If we don't continue to challenge, and if we don't start to advocate for black people and the positionality of black people on these campuses, we're going to see a situation where black professors will literally become slaves. Not simply on the basis that they're underpaid or unemployed, but slaves because they will be fundamentally married to being mediocre, to enforcing the types of conservatism simply to maintain their position in the academic plantation that is invested in anti-black violence of students and has absolutely no value whatsoever for their perspectives about black people or the scholarship that's trying to empower those people on a university campus.
Wow, well said. How can folks find you, Dr. Tommy Curry?
They hit me on Twitter at Dr. TJC.
Twitter at Dr. TJC. Dr. Tommy Curry, Talking Tough with Dr. Tommy Curry every Thursday. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You've been listening to Ready News Review, the podcast with America's independent voice. Rob Redding, presented by Redding Communications Incorporated. For all the pressing news you need to know, log on to www.readingnewsreview.com.